Anyway, I could rattle on about Vrndavana Vilasini for quite a while, but you're not here to hear me glorify her. We're here to hear her glorify Srila Gurudeva and Srila Prabhupada. So it's a slightly extended bulletin. It's 45 minutes. Didi, I'm not taking any of your time because we'll give you 45 minutes starting from my handover. A very, very warm welcome. And thank you so much for coming, because I know it's not easy for you to be sitting for a long time, and you almost had to do it lying down today because of your back condition. So your enthusiasm is amazing, and I'm glad to see you sitting reasonably comfortably. So over to you, Vrndavana Vilasini. A very, very warm welcome from your family. I was going to say in the UK, but from your family all over the world. Hari Bol.
Okay. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gantharika Giridhari Radhika Raman Giriju Ki Jai Ho. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshu and Militamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitamina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Patantikam. Namo Mahavandanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaur Kubashe Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali for the savior of my life, our Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. And second of all, to my Bhajan Shiksha Guru, my big brother, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, and to the entire Guru Parampara, and to all the devotees who are there. And please tell me when my time is up, because I won't know. And we also have to give special thanks to Vaijanti Mala, because I'm supposed to be giving Chinese class right now. And she gave me permission to be able to do this. And she's waiting for me. So as soon as I'm done here, I have to go to the Chinese class. Anyhow, to begin with, I thought I should give just a little bit of history to build up to meeting Srila Gurudeva. Well, I was born in 1947, into a Christian family, very pious Christian family. The only thing they did wrong was eat things they shouldn't eat. And so I had a very spiritual upbringing, actually. I was very, very fortunate. And thank God I got a human form of life, which made it possible to do bhajan. But then when I was about 16 years old, when I was probably around 1970, I was born in 47. So however that was, I went to 3 years of college, whatever. But then I became a hippie, as you all know. And as you know, hippies, we were searching. And it was at that time, actually, that I first met devotees. It was probably in 1970. I had moved from my hometown, Seattle, Washington, to Berkeley, which was, the center of the hippie community. And I saw devotees for the first time. And I thought, wow, they're just part of the weird Berkeley scene. Oh, they're really strange. They had the bald heads and everything. But within 1 month, I had left my life, left it 100%. And I had joined the hippie movement. And of course, at that time, then I immediately became a vegetarian. We learned about reincarnation, and I actually started to interact a little bit with the devotees, because I have to tell you, this is really funny, actually, because as hippies, we liberated things, because it was all cosmic consciousness. Everything belonged to everybody. In fact, liberating means we just stole things. So anyhow, this devotee had a table with Prabhupada's books on it and Indian jewelry and all this fancy stuff. Well, I wanted one of those bracelets. I thought, well, that's really nice. So I tried to liberate that bracelet. And the devotee, of course, caught me. And the devotee said, well, I'll give you that bracelet. But first, you have to come to the Hare Krishna temple. And you have to bring a present for Krishna. And I thought, well, I really want that bracelet. So, okay, I'll do that. So I found out where the Hare Krishna temple was. It wasn't very far away. And on the way to the temple, I was liberating all the flowers in the gardens of everyone on the way to bring a present. So I thought, I'll just bouquet of flowers. And that was my first actually entering a Hare Krishna temple. And it was Krishna's trick, wasn't it? I don't remember so much. They gave me prasadam. I remember it smelled really good. And that was the beginning, actually, of my spiritual life, as far as Krishna consciousness goes. And then in my hippie life, it was amazing, because everywhere I went, whether it was in the desert in New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, California, back in Michigan, no matter where it was, kirtan was everywhere. Everywhere. People, the person next to me would be reading Prabhupada's Nectar Devotion. I remember I lived in a teepee in, I think it was Utah, in a desert, no, it was either Arizona, one of them, New Mexico, one of them. And we had learned Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra, we had learned the Tulsi prayer, we had learned the Hare Krishna, and we were just dancing around the campfire, singing all these songs. We didn't know what we were doing. And we were singing Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala, all these songs. We had no clue, but we loved it. And it was just part of our scene, part of our scene. But as you probably knew, the hippie scene was not the flowers, love, and peace that we were hoping it would be. We were learning a few things, but mostly it was really darkness. Too much drugs, too much illicit sex, too much even killing. You know, this was not the utopia we were looking for, and people weren't always so nice. So after not a very good experience, I actually went back to live with my parents in Seattle, Washington in 1972. And there was a temple right near my parents, only 1 mile away. It was actually the temple that Srila Prabhupada had established in Seattle. And it was from that temple where Srila Prabhupada wrote his letter to Trivikram Maharaj in condolence, because that's where he was when Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshamaraj left this world. And he wrote that famous letter saying how much Bhakti Pragyan Keshamaraj had helped him. So it's a very special place, actually, the ISKCON temple in Seattle. That old one, it's not there anymore. And so I was going to the temple back and forth, but I couldn't quite get it. And so finally the temple president said to me, how would you like to meet someone who loves God more than anybody else? I thought, well, that sounds good. Because I believed in God. I'd been going to church. I believed in it, but nobody in the Christian church, they were all hypocrites. You know, I didn't see anyone living the way, you know, you're supposed to live. So I wasn't too impressed and I wasn't very inspired. So of course he meant Prabhupada. So we went to meet Srila Prabhupada and we drove from Seattle to Portland, Oregon. I think it's about 6 to 8 hours. Can't remember how far. And Prabhupada was flying in from LA. LA was his Western World headquarters. And he was flying in to do some college preaching for the weekend. So we drove down and they dressed me up in a sari and here I am. And we go into the airport. And in those days, that's 1972, June 8, 1972. And we were in the airport. And in those days, it's a small airport, small plane. And you're looking out the window and you're seeing the plane come in and you're watching the doors open and the people walk down the ladder and then they walk across the tarmac. It's not how they come out shooting out now. And so we're at the window. It's quite far away. And all of a sudden the door opens and I see Srila Prabhupada. It was unbelievable. He just showered his mercy upon me. I don't know if anyone else had the same experience. I had no idea. But all of a sudden, he was so effulgent. He wasn't walking on the ground. And he was talking to me like he was, like heart to heart. Because he couldn't be, he was way over there. I was talking through a window. And I could hear him saying to me, waking up my soul. He was saying, I love you. I will never leave you. And I could just feel my heart, myself really saying, I love you. I'll never leave you. And it was like a heart-to-heart connection. It was unbelievable. And then he made such a miracle that all I heard was the whole world was chanting Hare Krishna. Every blade of grass, every person, every radio, for about 2 hours. I never came back again ever in my life. But those first 2 hours were just like, it was incredible. It was such a heart-to-heart connection. And that's what's brought me all the way to Vrndavana now. All the way to here. That very first connection, heart-to-heart with Srila Prabhupada. And so after being there a few days, I can't remember so much. I was such a spaced out hippie. I got to talk to Prabhupada, offer him flowers, but I can't remember so much. It's a foggy memory. But I went back to Seattle and I talked my parents into buying me a plane ticket to Los Angeles. I thought Prabhupada lived in Los Angeles. I didn't know he traveled. Anyhow, I flew to Los Angeles. Somehow I found the temple and I moved in. And I never moved out. Prabhupada had gotten me. He had picked me up from hell. Literally, I was in hell. And I would say that it was probably my mother that saved me. Because I was so, I mean, it was a pig in stool, you know, worm in stool, you know. I mean, we had gone so low as hippies, really low. Even though it was good that we were getting away from American middle classism, this, that, but still, it was not the answer. So my mother was praying so hard to Jesus Christ to save me. I'm sure that's what brought Srila Prabhupada into my life. And later, when her Christian friends asked her, why you don't, you know, try and convert her back to Christianity, you know what she said? She said, Jesus Christ couldn't save her. Only Prabhupada could save her. Isn't that incredible? She had that kind of understanding. That's how powerful Prabhupada is. That's how much he touched her heart as well as my heart. You know, later she came to visit me in Los Angeles, stayed in the Brahmachini ashram. And later there's more. I'll say she met Srila Gurudeva. She was very fortunate later. Anyhow, I moved into the LA temple. And can you imagine? When I joined, I lived in a room with 35 other ladies. We had one toilet, one sink, and one shower. 35 ladies. We just slept there. We didn't really spend much time in that room because we were too busy. Prabhupada had us, so by 1972, there was a definite program. Before that, they had done mostly just Harinam Sankirtan, but by the time I joined, there was Mangal Arti. And I lived in LA, we had 300 devotees. You can imagine how blissful Mangal Arti was. It was really, really nice. And we had beautiful big Didis. They were Radha Krishna in those days. Later, they become other names. But we were all happy. We were just so happy because, for one thing, we've been miserable before in our material life. And now here it's like darkness to light. Boom, just like that. And Prabhupada has engaged 24 hours a day, blissfully. You know, it was just astonishing, going on Harinam, going to parties, you know, and he was giving Bhagavatam class every morning. We got to hear Bhagavatam class from Srila Prabhupada. When I joined, it was a scheduled incarnations. Later, I heard the prayers of Queen Kunti, Ajamil, so many. And that's the real connection with gurus, hearing that Harikatha. Like the song that Radhika sang, Prema Bhakti Yaha Haiti Avidya Vinasiyate. That's that Prem Bhakti coming out as the Harikatha and the Avidya. That's what clears the Avidya, isn't it? Of course, his smile does that, everything, his glances do that. And the thing with Prabhupada was, same with Gurudeva, we only wanted to make Prabhupada happy. He instantly gave us unflinching faith. He instantly gave us that we didn't want anything but to make him happy. Really, it's amazing because what we were doing, we'd given up everything and we had nothing of our own. Nothing. I didn't even have my own clothes. You just took your clothes out of a big barrel and wore one of the saris, and that was it. Yeah. Yeah, and then eventually I started doing book distribution, you know, first door to door, then in the parking lot. Then I went to the LA airport. And the first year it wasn't even legalized, so I went to jail a few times, you know. But then after a year it got legalized, and we're going in our saris like this and just distributing hundreds and thousands of books for Srila Prabhupada. And we didn't want anything but know that Prabhupada was happy. Prabhupada gave us that, this connection with Guru Seva. That was so important, and Seva and separation, because Prabhupada was not always there, and most of the devotees didn't get to see Prabhupada that much. Some of Prabhupada's disciples never saw him. The ones in Brazil, they never got to see him, but they're still, that Brazil is still going on nicely. Prabhupada gave such enthusiasm and such faith and such desire to please him because he had given us so much. He was so grateful. And the other real amazing thing that he did for us was that we were told to stay in where we were at. We weren't supposed to travel. We were given a Prabhu Gata Desh. That's your place of service. And we had Thakurji. We had Radha and Krishna. We had Gaurnitai and sometimes Jagannath Balaram and Subhadra. And they were the center of your life. You were just doing everything for Guru and Radha and Krishna. Gaurnitai, like this. That was your life, you know, like this. And I was a brahmachari. I never got married. Most of the girls got married, but I never did. And then we were taught to serve Prabhupada in separation and to know that he would be happy that way. And so that's a great gift. It's a great gift to be given that. You have to serve in separation like that. and go on through all the difficulties. Of course, the biggest difficulty was when Prabhupada left in 1977. Of course, before that, I should say one thing before that. It was actually in 1972 that I got initiated by Prabhupada. It was three months after I met him. It was on Balaram Purnima. It must have been August, maybe August 25th or something, 72. And it was Balaram Purnima. And Prabhupada was in a real Vrindavan mood. And usually you get your name by your first initial of your name. My name was Susan. But I had read the Krishna book, plus I'd been a hippie, you know. So I wanted to be named Vrindavan. I just wanted to be named Vrindavan. I don't know why. I just thought that's what I was looking for when I was a hippie. I just wanted to be in Vrindavan. That's where the real happiness is, the gopis and the gopas. And, oh, yes, this is center. So in this initiation, I was the last person. And he gave the name Gopinath. He gave the name Madan Mohan to someone, Vrinda, Vrindavaneshwar. He's given everybody Vrindavan names. So when he called me up, in those days, you had to tell the four regular. He says, what are the four regular principles? So you go, no meeting, no, and I had somehow, I wanted to make him laugh. I don't know. Even though I was 25 years old, I just like a little kid. And I really want to make Prabhupada laugh. So I looked up at Prabhupada after that. And Prabhupada, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna, because that's the most important rule. You know, we hear that. And Prabhupada just started laughing and laughing. He loved it. And he said, your name is Srimati Vrindavan Vilasini, Didi Dasi. That's a name for Srimati Radharani, the one who enjoys in Vrindavan. And I was just like, oh my God, he knows my heart. He did. And I was never called Vrindavan Vilasini until I came to Gurudeva. I was always Vrindavan, you know, Mother Vrindavan or something like that. And in Vrindavan, and in ISKCON, they were Vrindavan Prabhu, you know, everyone was Prabhu. So that was really special. And I never really got to talk to Prabhupada the way I got to talk to Gurudeva. I didn't. But I got to hear Srimad Bhagavatam classes. And I had that heart-to-heart connection. And I just wanted to please Prabhupada. And I knew he had saved me from hell. And that he was going to save me from this material world. Because Prabhupada had that way of making us feel we were going to go back home, back to Godhead just tomorrow. No joke. We were all convinced tomorrow we're going back home, back to Godhead. It was incredible. The hope that he gave us. He gave us such hope. And he would also say things like, you just make America Krishna conscious and the whole world will follow and it will become a Vaikuntha planet. And we were thinking, yes, that's what we're going to do. It was incredible. He had us, look what everyone did. I mean, Buri John Prabhu, he had just joined and been there a few months, and Prabhupada sent him by himself to Hong Kong to start a temple. And that temple's still going on. And he sent somebody else to Germany and somebody else to Africa. And he empowered us. We weren't doing it. The thing that was the real truth is that for some reason he was able to draw from us that kind of surrender, that kind of faith. It was incredible. It's not that we were doing anything. I mean, we were just a bunch of, forest monkeys, dancing white elephants. But he just drew out of us that surrender and that faith. And we were doing incredible things. But it was Prabhupada doing it. Our only credit is we allowed him to do it. Really. We allowed somehow, we said, okay, use us like this. And whatever he said, okay, we're going to do it to the best we can. He would say, just do it. You'll be empowered to do it. So we would say, okay, we'll just do it. I had no clue how to distribute books. I had never done anything like that, So, but here we are distributing hundreds and thousands of books. I used to go to Disneyland. I don't know if you've ever heard of Disneyland. It's one of the biggest entertainment places in the world. I don't know about now. And we used to go undercover, Bobadeva and I. We dress up, like a couple. And we take a baby carriage and we put all the books, the little Krishna books, in the baby carriage and they cover them with a blanket. And we go in there and there's so many police in there, believe me, so many police. And you just run around trying to get, and the book has George Harrison's name in it because he wrote the introduction or preface or something. Oh, here's a book that George Harrison, we were just running around trying to get him out before we get caught, We were doing incredible things, running all over the LA airport. But then, of course, after a while, Prabhupada left in 1977, and that was completely devastating. I had been to India in 1975 to when Prabhupada opened the Krishna Balaram temple. That was an incredible experience. We went first to Mayapur. When I went to Mayapur, I thought I was walking into the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was unbelievable, unbelievable to me. Because I was in LA where the BBT was, and the books were coming out, and as the books came out, I read them. I read every single one. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita was coming out at that time. And it was an incredible experience to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because everything's in there. It's an astonishing, astonishing gift of Krishna Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada gave us. Unbelievable. Then we came to Vrindavan. And I remember I fell in love with Vrindavan. I wanted to live in Vrindavan from the second I got here. I felt if I just turn quick enough, I'm going to see Krishna. Because in those days, there were no rickshaws, no cars, no TVs. All the men were wearing dhotis, chanting Hare Krishna. There were peacocks everywhere. You know, there was no, it was completely different. But anyhow, I still love Vrindavan. Because the Vrindavan is with eyes of praying. You know, I'm living on a net of mine. But anyhow, so he installed the Didis, and that was incredible. I won't get into that, but that was an incredible. We had 24-hour kirtan. That Prabhupada said that's the real installation, not all the, you know, Pandit stuff. But anyhow, he left in 1977, and that was very difficult because we had no culture like Indians have. We had no background. We had no seniors, really. The senior to me had been somebody who joined 6 years before me, you know? So it's like, what to do now? What are we going to do? How are we going to go on? And, but fortunately, my temple president, he was very intelligent. The day after, because we were called in and we were told about Prabhupada, and then he said, okay, back to service. So the next day I went to the airport, and that is the thing, because it's service to Guru that is the connection. Even though I would cry when I was going up to every person, what happened? My father just passed away. But anyhow, by keeping on in the service, that's what saved us. That's what saved us. And because I was a little nutty in those days, I was 30 years old. I decided I didn't want to get deviated from Prabhupada's service because I could see this was going to be difficult times. Because I knew that my godbrothers were probably not the most qualified gurus. We were going to give it a try, but, you know, it just, you know, I knew, you know, and we all knew. Anyhow, so what I did was, without asking anyone, I just put on white. You know, and in those days it meant that, you know, you didn't want to get married, you were in a house and blah, blah. A lot of ladies were wearing it. Most of them took it off later and got married. But anyhow, I did it because I knew I had such a big false ego that I wasn't going to take it off. No way was I going to take it off, you know. So I thought, okay, this will protect me from all my material desires. So anyhow, I put on white at that time. And then we had a lot of politics. And it was very, very difficult. We won't get into that. But in 1989, I came to Vrindavan to shop for the Didis. They sent me to the Dom to do the shopping for the Didis there in Los Angeles. And I went for Radhastami. It was in the beginning of September. And once I got there, I just knew I was not going to go back. There was just no way. Not this time. I'm not going back. Already, I stayed in Los Angeles and done my duty for 17 years. And after Rameshwar left, he was a GBC. I stayed another 3 years to make sure everything worked out. I said, I'm finished. You know, I got to get on to my spiritual life. My spiritual life is not doing well. I've got to, no. So I sent all the Didi stuff back with somebody and I stayed. And they were very angry, very angry. And somehow or other I became a Gurukula teacher, which was not the smartest thing to do because that was not, I am not meant to be a Gurukula. To me, young kids were like Martians. I never had kids. I didn't know anything about kids. And anyhow, I did it for 4 years. That was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. But in that time, in Vrindavan, we had no politics with Gaudiya Math yet. And so I went to Mangalartik one day, and Dina Bandhu, the temple president, makes an announcement. He says, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj is inviting all the ISKCON devotees to go to Keshapti Gaudiya Math to celebrate Vishra Mahotsava, which is Prabhupada's Sannyas Day, in Mathura with him. Now, before that, the only way I met Gurudeva was through his kirtans, which Pushpadanta Prabhu had circulated through ISKCON. I had heard them and I loved them, but I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything, but I had fallen in love with Gurudeva's kirtan. But anyhow, so I joined that group going to the Keshapti Gaudiya Math. And in those days, we had 2 huge busloads of ISKCON devotees go to the Keshe Only. That was hundreds of devotees. We went. And the temple room in Mathura was packed, mostly all Western devotees. It was packed. Gurudeva was there. All the ISKCON leaders were there. Everybody was there. And they were glorifying Prabhupada. Now, I can't remember so much because I was brand new to India, brand new to Gaudiya Math. I mean, everything was just kind of like going, whoa, whoa, what's going on here? I do remember the prasadam was great. And I do remember I saw Gurudeva. But what really impressed me at that first meeting was I went with a friend of mine named Aditya. She's a Prabhupada disciple. She's now passed on. And she was a pioneer in Bombay. She had helped Prabhupada in the Bombay project. And that was a very difficult project. Anyhow, she was in Vrndavana and we become good friends. And so we had gone together to this program. And after the program, the main program, Gurudeva went in his rooms, which were the little room that was downstairs where Chaitanya Maharaj ended up being. That was Gurudeva's rooms in those days. He wasn't upstairs. So he was in his little room with all the ISKCON leaders packed into that little room. And we were just outside somewhere, wandering. And all of a sudden, someone comes up and says, Aditya Mataji, Srila Narayana Maharaj is calling for you. Now, I didn't go with her because they weren't calling for me. So she went into that room where there was only men in there, all the ISKCON bigwigs. And Gurudeva was telling the men, she is a very, very nice devotee because she had helped Gurudeva when he had gone to Bombay to testify for ISKCON when Prabhupada's sons were trying to take ISKCON away from ISKCON. They claimed that it was theirs because they were his son and he wasn't really a sannyasi and blah, blah, blah. And so ISKCON had asked Gurudeva to come and testify. So Gurudeva did that tirelessly every day, going to the court all day long, And Aditya had gone with him every day and she had served him. And he was so impressed with her service attitude to him and to Srila Prabhupada. So when he called her in, and they were not taking care of her very nicely, he said, you must always take care of her. You must always maintain her. She's such a good devotee. You must take care of her. He was instructing all the ISKCON leaders like this. So when she came back and she told me that, I was just astonished. I thought, here's someone who really cares. This really touched my heart, So then we went back to ISKCON, and then a few weeks later, there was another announcement. Srila Narayana Maharaj is inviting all the ISKCON devotees to go to Dauji because he's going to lay the cornerstone for his new temple in Dauji. Everyone's invited to go. So of course, I decided, well, it sounds good. I think I'll go. And because I just like to get out, I still hadn't quite connected with him yet. And there was not very many ISKCON devotees. So it was a small bus that went, not so many devotees. And we started by having Nagar Sankirtan through Dauji. It's over by Mahavan, Gokul Mahavan, Kastas, Dauji, the beautiful temple of Dauji. And we were having Harinam Sankirtan through the streets. And this is when I really my heartstrings started to go. Because I got so bored with the ISKCON Kirtan. And Gurudev's Kirtan, he was leading himself. You know how Gurudeva is. I could not resist Gurudev's Kirtan and his Kirtaniers. I just kept running over to their Kirtan, and then the ISKCON people would get all upset. But I just could not. I had to be with that Kirtan. And so we went to Dauji, and I remember thinking, and then Gurudev comes running in with his men, and I thought, wow, who's that, And so then we went to where the Pandal was, where he was going to give his Hindi lecture, and he was going to lay the cornerstone. And it was a Hindi lecture, so I didn't know any Hindi, and I was still brand new to India. So I'm just kind of wandering around in the back of the Pandal. And all of a sudden, I had the same experience I had with Srila Prabhupada. It was incredible. Gurudev speaking in Hindi to all these people, but I heard him talking to me in my heart. I heard him saying, who are you? I want to know you. What's your name? I could hear him talking to my heart. And I was just like, wow, what? This is incredible. This is too incredible. But it took a little bit of time. It wasn't really until the next year because I didn't know that I could just go to Gaudiya and walk in. I had no clue. I was just a programmed ISKCON devotee, just coming from the West. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know where Gaudiya was. But finally, my friend took me in 1990 to meet Srila Gurudeva at the Vrndavana Gaudiya. She was writing a book about the trees of Vrndavana, and she wanted me to take notes. So I went there, and for 2 days, we got to hear the most amazing nectar, because he told us all, Kaliya, the Kadamba tree there, the whole story. I mean, really long Kaliya. He took us to Vamsivat, the whole story there. Mandirvan, Jaru Mandal, 2 days full of Leela, Radha Krishna Leela, and nectar. And I was just like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. I never want to stop hearing this. And of course, Gurudeva would say, oh, do you like it? Would you like to come back? You know how he is. And of course, I wanted to. But that was in May. And I think in June, I had to go back to the West for some reason. I don't know why. And then I was so involved in my Gurukuliks. I was in trauma with Gurukuliks. I didn't even know what I was doing, all these kids. And so, but in 1991, Aditya again, my friend Aditya, she was having some difficulty and she wanted to go consult with Srila Narayana Maharaj in Mathura. She asked me if I'd go with her, and that was in January. So we went to see him, and he was so kind. And from that day on, sometime, I don't remember the date, in January 1991, we really took him as our Shiksha Guru. It became, and we were going to see Gurudeva maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week. From Vrndavana to Mathura, his doors were open. I finally understood, wow, you can just go see him. You can ask him anything. It's unbelievable. This is incredible mercy. Oh, mercy, thank you, Srila. Because what had happened was, before I met Srila Gurudeva, actually, I was praying, because I'm the kind of person that I had faith in Vrndavana, in the dust of Vrndavana, the trees. I was praying to the trees and the dust for good association. And my friend, she said, well, why don't you pray for the best association? I said, well, that sounds even better. So I started praying for the best association, and then I got Gurudeva. So Vrndavana Dham and Srila Prabhupada really sent Gurudeva. And Prabhupada, I could see, it was his kindness to me. Because I had already started to get into higher level things in ISKCON Vrndavana. I was reading Kushakarta's books. I'd read Vilapta Spanjali. I'd read Govinda Leelamrita, Daiva Dharma. I had started to read these things. And with this, you need a proper Shiksha Guru. You need guidance. And in ISKCON, there wasn't anymore. So Prabhupada's very kind. Very kind. He wanted to give me shelter. I had taken shelter of him. And so he wanted to give me Shiksha Guru. And I'm very grateful. Extremely grateful. Because God knows I might have ended up out of Radha. Who knows what might have happened. So from that day on, we were asking Gurudeva. Aditya and I were first asking, we asked him, how can we improve our bhajan? And it was beautiful what he said. He said, you take a stick broom. I don't know if you know what a stick broom is. It's a broom. It's not just a regular broom. It's a broom that's just made of sticks. They have them in India. Just a bunch of sticks and they're wrapped up. He said, you take a stick broom and you go to every holy place and you sweep and you pray and you cry and you roll in the dust. So we did that. We would get in a rickshaw with our stick broom and we'd go to Sevaku and we'd start brewing. Yeah, we did it. It was just like Shyamananda. That's what Jiva Goswami had told Shyamananda. We never found a golden anchor bell, but we found the best golden guru, Srila Gurudeva. So, yeah, and he told us at that time, and we had never heard of this before, that's when he told us to first start singing, Munindra Vrindavandike Piloka Sokaharini. So you sing that. He didn't say anything, I'd just sing that. Those 2 things is what he said. And then little by little, he would say more and more. One time during the month of Purushottam, we told him, oh, we're chanting I think it's the 16th or 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I guess it's Bhagavad Gita. And he said, no. That's Vasudeva, Purushottam is Krishna in Vrindavan. He's worshiping Srimati Radharani. He goes every day to Radhakund and he bathes 3 times a day in Radhakund. And he just chants Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. So he was telling us all these incredible things. And he was telling them to anyone who went there. I think my time is getting slow. So I better, I haven't even gotten anywhere.
You got another 13 minutes. Perfect.
No more. Okay, I better get going here. So there's so many more things to say. And anyhow, I was in ISKCON Vrndavana, and at that time, ISKCON Vrndavana was allowing Gurudev to come for Balaram Purnima and Prabhupada's disappearance day. He was very happily welcomed. He would speak in the ISKCON temple, and everybody was following Gurudev. And of course, you know, that's when he started giving those classes to the ISKCON leaders. I went to some of them. I went to some of the beloved Patanjali classes, but I was teaching mostly, and I couldn't go in the morning. But in the afternoon, I would go, and then he'd tell us the same class, so that was fine. You know? So, but I was sold out to Gurudev. He was my Shiksha Guru. And Gurudev, Prabhupada had taught me, Guru is perfect. You always, you know, you stick with your Guru. So in 1995, when all the trouble started, and they did not invite Gurudev to Balaram Purnima, they just didn't invite him. They weren't even nice enough to tell him, you know, you can't come. They just didn't invite him. He was so angry, believe me. He was so angry. That's when he really started. That's when that fire to go out and preach came that day. It was Balaram. Balaram wanted him to go preach all over the world. Because that night in Mathura, he gave such a class on Guru Tattva. Oh, he was on fire. And it was the next year that he started preaching all over the world. You know? So, yeah. Before that, I should make one comment. Gurudev used to write in Puri in the winters before he started traveling. I was lucky enough to go and stay with him in Puri twice, 2 winters. And it was at that time, right at the, what is it? Is it the Chaitanya Math? The one where Bhakti Divya and Bharati Maharaj, where Bhakti Siddhanta appeared. I never remember the names of the months. Anyhow, Bhakti Divya and Bharati Maharaj was staying there when Gurudev was there. And Keshava Prabhu. Keshava Prabhu is a disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he'd been his cook. So the 2 of them were staying there at that month. And they would come and visit Gurudev. That's when I first met Srila Bhakti and Bharati Maharaj. Gurudev actually introduced me to it and to Keshava Prabhu. And so that's astonishing. I could see the loving, the deep, loving, affectionate, friendly relationship they had. You know, and Gurudev would go visit them. And when he would first see them, he would just fall flat and pay his dandavats, satsang dandavats to them. You know, especially Keshava, because he's so senior. So that was quite amazing. I forgot to say I met Keshava Prabhu too. What a Vaishnava. I also later saw him and he said some really nice things that I can't remember what they were. Sorry. And then, of course, in '95, when we got the ultimatum, actually they called Shamarani and I in. I won't mention who. And they said, okay, the GBC has decided that Gurudev's banned from ISKCON. And any Prabhupada disciple who's gone to see him has to be punished. And so as punishment, you can never see Srila Narayana Maharaj again in your entire life, and you have to leave Vrindavan for 1 year. Well, I was horrified, and I thought, well, my mother has better manners than that. You got to be joking. No, no way. You know, I'm not gonna, no. I went to see Gurudev in Delhi, and I asked him if I could leave ISKCON. And previous to this, I had asked if I could leave ISKCON, and he said, no, it's not good, because you don't normally leave the institution of your guru unless it's a really good reason. So this was a really good reason, because my guru was being offended. But at first, Gurudev said, no, you should be like a Kura, you know, stay in ISKCON and be, you know, still like me and blah. I said, no, I don't want to be a Kura. Sorry, I'm not going to be a Kura. And he said, I have everything's in Hindi. And he just was going on and on and on. And I said, I don't care. Finally, he said, okay, you can leave. He gave me permission to leave. And so that was, and then after that, I went to, pretty soon after that, I went to live at the Keshavji Gaudiya with Gurudev. That was quite an experience. And I started traveling with Gurudev for 6 years. Previous to that, I forgot, this is a really nice one. I think it's 1992 or 93. I'd been one of the first Westerners to ever go on Navadvip Parikrama. There were 5 Western ladies and 1 Western man. And the man had a room, and we had this little pup tent, you know, a little pup tent. And Gurudev helped us put him up in the middle of all the mosquito nets. He was so proud of us. And all the Indians are looking at us. They've never seen anything. And here we are in the middle of them, you know, and we had to use the public bathroom. We ate all the same things, everything the same. And all the loudspeakers going, and we were like, whoa. But by the end of that, I felt I had been swimming in an ocean of Gaur Prem. And I just fell in love with it. And I never wanted to leave Navadvip Parikrama. I never wanted to leave Gurudeva. I just wanted to be with him 24 hours a day. But I didn't understand a thing that was going on. It was all Bengali, Bengali, Bengali. That's when I met Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj and Bhakti Vedanta Raman Maharaj, Bhakti Vedanta Parikrama Maharaj, and had an ongoing relationship with Raman Maharaj and Parikrama Maharaj. Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj, I think he left the year after that. And Gurudev personally told me that Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj was the closest to him in mood of anyone. Because he was Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. It's true, it's true. And so then in Mathura, we got to hear Gurudev's classes every day. I lived in the dungeon in the basement. That was a real trial. I had to use the public bathroom. Shanti was there with me, and Uma Didi and Vrinda and Brajanath were next door. It was a Bengali Brahmachari mat. That was quite an amazing experience. As Gurudev said, if you come to me, expect to be pounded. I have to make you like into purified gold. And to purify gold, you put gold in a fire and you bring it out and you pound it. You put it in the fire and you pound it. Well, that's what he did. It was really difficult. But his Harikatha every day really saved the day. Believe me, we got to hear. His Harikatha in Mathura was the best Harikatha. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. So incredible. Even if you didn't know what he was saying. But we always got translations. And then, of course, later on, we got direct translations with the headphones. You know, and then traveling with Gurudev was so astonishing. I'll tell you a couple of things because I don't have much time. One time in Russia, I was, because Gurudev liked to joke with me a lot, and he called me affectionately his little sister. And so we were sitting together, and he was joking with me about Rukmini and Dwarkadish, because in LA they changed the Didis to Rukmini and Dwarkadish. You know, saying, oh, you went to Dwarka and you were worshiping Rukmini and Dwarkadish. And he was like, you know, needling me. And I went, no, I didn't. I always like, you know, we were kind of like, oh. And then he looked at me and he said, did you ever get to joke and laugh with your Prabhupada like this? I said, no, I didn't, but I always wanted to. And then he said something so incredible. He said, well, he told me to do it because he didn't have fun. So that's just, I mean, it was just incredible. For one thing, Prabhupada hadn't forgotten it. And that he had such a relationship with Gurudev. It was just astonishing. And the most astonishing thing is, because I was with Gurudev until, you know, for 20-something years. That's a long time. A very heartfelt relationship, you know, and it was a real trying and testing, you know, and love, and it was an incredible experience. One time, must have been early on at the Keshavji Gaudiya Math, every time I would walk into his room for darshan, he'd start yelling at me. He'd be really nice to everybody in the room. A lot of the ones I didn't like, you know, and he'd be really nice. And then as soon as I came, he'd start yelling at me. What are you doing here? Why are you here? You know, I was like, oh God, you know, what's going on, you know, heart and stuff. And that went on for 6 months. Can you imagine? I'd go back to my room and I'd just cry. But I never thought that I never got angry with Gurudeva. I never thought he's doing something he shouldn't do. I just thought, oh my gosh, I must be so horrible that he has to do this to me. Because Prabhupada taught me Guru is perfect. Guru is perfect. But then one day, after about 6 months, I walked into his room. And he looked at me and he said, oh, you have to forgive me. I'm so sorry I've been so heavy with you. And I was just astonished. I went, what? What's going on? You know, and I said, well, Gurudev, you haven't done anything wrong. He said, oh, sometimes the pressure is so heavy and all the. I said, no, Gurudev, you don't do anything. You never did anything wrong. I'm just so sorry. I get so emotional and I cry. And then he revealed what was going on. His whole mood changed. And he said, yes, just like when you left ISKCON, you controlled your emotions by your intelligence. You always control your emotions by your intelligence. So he'd been testing me to see if I would stay with him, if I would not give up, if I would just keep coming no matter what he did. And I was astonished. I was so grateful to him because he wasn't just saying, oh, you're so nice, you're so nice. No, he was trying to take all the deep anarthas out of my heart. He really was. He was really Shiksha Guru, giving the Shiksha and removing the anarthas. Yeah, it was not easy. It was not easy at all. In one sense, being with Prabhupada was easier because it wasn't hands-on. It was just the heart-to-heart thing, and and the other people doing everything. But this was Gurudeva himself. One time he kicked me in the head. No joke. He kicked me in the head. I was paying my obeisances to his foot on the ground, and he had one leg crossed. And this leg that was crossed, he just bam on the top of my head. I got up. I went, oh yeah, and he goes, go. And we were in Shergar. It was Rajmundal Parikrama. And he was kind of externally saying, go, get on the bus, go. And he wasn't in a good mood. But I knew what he meant. He meant I should go back to America and help my mother because she was passing. So I immediately left Parikrama, went back to Vrndavana, back to Seattle, and I helped my mother pass, and I was chanting in her ear when she passed. And she got a lot of mercy. And 5 years later, I went with my father and chanted in his ear. And Gurudev said they both come in line and they will quickly go up. He even visited them on tour. He visited their home. Can you imagine? He just went and he gave my father a big hug. And he had met my mother earlier in Vrndavana in Kartik in 1994 when I was still in ISKCON. She had come to visit me. And I had taken her to see him in the Rupanat and Gaudiya. This is really funny. We went into the room and the first thing Gurudev says is, oh, I'm thinking of getting your daughter married. I mean, I was only in my 50s, It was like, what? And she's kind of going, what? But it turned out, of course, he's joking. And he met Krishna. But 6 months later, when I went to visit her in Seattle, the only person she could remember was the man who wanted to get me married. So just see how clever is Guru. How clever. He made her his, and then he went to visit her in Seattle, and he went to visit my father. How amazing, isn't it? He's so incredible, incredible. Compassionate to one and all. Wants to take everyone back home, back to Godhead, isn't it? He says, you all better learn to get along together because I want to take you all back together. Better stop criticizing, fault finding, and learn to live together and serve together. Isn't it? That was one of his topmost teachings. Don't criticize. Don't fault find. Just serve. See everything coming to you as your own activities and go on serving with your heart and with your body and with your words and with your mind. Just go on serving and everything will come. Everything will come. So we are so fortunate, so fortunate. I mean, there's unlimited things to say about Srila Gurudev. Of course, in 2002,
we need to stop now, but I feel like everybody in the audience, I feel like everyone would want to throw tomatoes at me for stopping you. In fact, I want to throw a tomato at myself.
No, I have to stop.
Radhika's actually, no, you got to go to your Chinese class. But honestly, that was like unbelievable. It feels like about 3 minutes has gone by. It was such a perfect, I want to say it's such a perfect glorification because you imbued so much of the teaching of Prabhupada and Gurudev within all your personal experiences. It was amazing. And it inspired me, like somebody needs to get recordings from you and turn this into a biography because it's incredible for us to hear these experiences like Prabhupada telling you that I love you, I'll never leave you. Amazing. And how he engaged you 24 hours in Seva and how Seva saved you when Prabhupada disappeared. And I loved it when you said that little kids are like Martians. That was hilarious. That was just a little anecdote. And hearing Gurudev's kirtan and how inspiring that was for you and taking Shiksha from Gurudev from January 1991 and how Gurudev and how you prayed for the best association. That was a great instruction for me personally, and how Gurudev instructs you regarding bhajan with a stick broom and to pray and roll in the dust. We can do this through mind. It was just amazing. And that Balarama Appearance Day class, I want to look that up and find it. Like, you really inspired me to find out what the contents were of that class. So thank you from the absolute core of my heart. And I feel that Yashadari wants to thank you as well before you go to your Chinese class. And I think we're going to have to plead with you to come back on. I know that's going to be a tough call. Yashadari?
Well, sometime I could start where I left off and finish.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Vrndavana Vilasini Didi.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so much, Didi. We're just feeling really fortunate. I actually feel so privileged to be in your association. And yeah, it was incredible. We're just really lucky, actually. Didn't realize how lucky we are.
I'm lucky to have all you. Believe me, I'm lucky to have all you.
Well, I've got so much to learn from you, and I'm looking forward to learning that from you when I move to Vrindavan. I'm looking forward to that very moment. So until we meet again, I'm sure you will help me.
Jai Haribol. Glories to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudeva.
Jai.
Jai.
I gotta go.
Oh, thank Vajanti Mala. Hey, thank Vajanti Mala for me.
I will.
And tell her the fish.
I will.
Tell her she hasn't got away. Okay, I'm not letting her get away.
Okay. Okay.
Haribo.